Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest podcast on planet Earth. It is the one and only Mr. King Femi.
And it's your boy, Nick. What's going on?
I'm chilling, man. Welcome to the Uncover Podcast, bruh.
That's it. We thought we'd probably hit you guys up with something different. I think what we should do is give the audience a bit of context as to what this is going to be about. Because It's a bit different from what we kind of normally do. Normally we have guests and we have conversations with them. But
they don't know that because they don't know how many we've done.
Oh, that's true.
This is episode 2 to you.
Well, let me show you what this episode is going to be all about anyway.
Yeah.
So pretty much the way it's going to work, right, is that obviously on a Thursday, we'll have a podcast with our guests, which you will love and hear. But then on a Monday, me and Femi are going to have a little bit of a chat, and we're just going to share our own perspective on some controversial topics, some topics about mental health, and just share kind of what our opinion is, and from things that we've experienced being in the workforce for a bit. I think that there's a lot of insight and value, and plus our conversations can go kind of left sometimes, which is what they like to hear. So I think that will be super beneficial, and I hope you guys really love it.
100%. And I think that this type of chat is not for Nick and I to be in complete and utter agreement. I think that it's a really good opportunity for you to understand that it's okay to disagree, but still be going to like the same kind of like having the same message.
That's it.
Because we're gonna have different points about different things, and that's totally okay. And I'm really excited to see what we agree and disagree on.
And the thing I love about it when we have conversations is because you guys obviously don't know, but Femi and I are so different. We're actually so different.
Completely.
Very different opinions, very different perspectives on life that I think that you guys will be able to kind of
Different
see the
builds.
differences. And builds.
Different builds. I'm lean. Nick's
Well,
one cheeseburger away from Teddy
You're
Craig.
91 now, but
No, I'm not. I'm 89.9.
Okay, bro. Mislead the audience.
Yeah.
But boom, let's kind of get straight into it, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So basically, what this is going to be about is we're just going to go through the first topic, which is, Nick, you want to tell them what it's going to be talking about?
Yeah, sure. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about mental health and its correlation with relationships.
Yes.
Because I think that it's very prevalent in this society and a lot of people go through it, but not enough people talk about it or truly understand whether you're the one that's the partner that's in the, you're either the guy that's going with the mental health issue or you're the partner supporting it. No one really talks about it too much. So this is going to be I'm going to love this conversation a lot, and we're going to be able to share a lot of perspectives. So I think that, I don't know I haven't actually had this conversation with you before, so I don't know whether you've gone through it or not. Yeah. But I think for myself in previous relationships, that's kind of shown up a little bit. So I think I'm going to have a bit of a personal opinion on it. So I'll be interested to see what your kind of thoughts on it are.
About what? Like what?
Just the mental health and relationships. Like I haven't.
Yeah, I think that that's a pretty broad question, but I think that like mental health has a correlation with absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And I think that in relationships, it's one of the most important things that we do on a day-to-day basis. We have a relationship with everything. We have a relationship with friends, family, the sky, negative, like whatever it is, you have a relationship with it. So I think that having a sound mental state is what's going to allow you to perform optimally.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing I hear when I hear relationships and mental health, and I think about trauma.
Right.
I think about the emotional baggage that we bring into every relationship. And a lot of the time, the emotional baggage isn't from the relationship. It's from past experiences that we're now imposing onto our partner.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And that's when it starts to kind of show up, right? Because all these things that happen in a relationship, they don't just suddenly appear. Like it doesn't just suddenly come as a result of me being in this relationship. It's either you've dealt with like an insecurity in the past, whether you were in a toxic relationship before, or you had a partner that's cheated on you. Now you have a bit of insecurities when it comes to trust. And that's when it starts to kind of show up. And most times we're not really aware that it's actually showing up as a result of us from the previous relationship, and it leaves the other person and the other decision being like, what the hell is going on? This person's purely insecure. But that's because we don't give us enough time and ability to actually have that conversation about it.
Yeah, so the way that I look at it, right, and the perspective that I've kind of researched and understood it as is all insecurities, all kind of emotional baggage are a result of unresolved trauma.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that the reason why you're insecure is because you haven't dug deep enough to realize why those things bother you. And the reason why those things bother you is because you've been somewhat traumatized at whatever level. And people have this issue with me saying the T word, trauma, because they think that it's fucking, I don't have trauma. I haven't seen someone get shot. I didn't get, raped as a kid. I didn't I had a good family. But the truth is that trauma happens every day. If you think you don't have trauma, you're just ignorant. You're ignorant to the trauma it is, and that can be unintentional emotional neglect. That can be absolutely anything.
So what would be your definition? How would you define trauma then?
So trauma is the threatening of a relationship. That's what it is by definition. It's like, so that could be like if you graze your knee, it's like that's a threat to your your relationship having skin on it. Do you know what I mean? So do you know what I mean? Like this trauma could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
It could be, there's so many different forms of trauma. There's shock trauma, that's like the immediate car crashes, war, whatever. And then there's the two major ones is the relationship and the shock trauma. Relationship trauma is when it's like, it's not just boyfriend and girlfriend. It's also like maybe in the workplace or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's from that emotional damage that's happened that's now caused you to have insecurities. Because what you're seeing in a relationship when that person is insecure, when that person is overreacting, or people put it down as immature. Like I was having a conversation with you, and I actually had a really big think about what you said about a certain boyfriend and girlfriend, and you thought that the girlfriend was immature. And I said then I questioned. I was like, I don't think that she is immature or insecure. I think that she is, but I think the reason is that she has unresolved kind of issues that she hasn't addressed. Because what I'm basically getting at is it's a symptom, not the cause. Like the what you're seeing, that behavior is just the symptom of a deep-rooted issue that never gets resolved because we never go deep enough to have that conversation.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that sometimes though, like just going off the topic you were talking about with the causes is that, or the immaturity I should say, is that I feel that a lot of the time as people, we're quite ignorant to it because we don't actually get exposed to it, and we don't actually know that it's an issue until it actually pops up. Yeah. And I think that there's a level of type of events and things need to be exposed to in your life to be able to come quite aware that this is an ongoing issue. Because most times people will tell us, or like your partner will tell you all the time that, oh, you're acting like this, blah, 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 blah. Or why are you so insecure, blah, 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 blah. Why you got trust issues, blah, 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 blah. And most times, like, you hear it, but you disregard it. You're like, nah, nigga, I don't have that shit. I'm just talking shit. Yeah. But until you actually put yourself in a situation or an environment and you're actually exposed to it, I think that's the only time that you're able to actually facilitate a level of growth and being able to actually delve in and deal with that issue head on. That's what I'm thinking.
100%. 100%. I think that it's the 3 stages of being able to get over trauma, right? Yeah. The first step is denying it, which is what most people live in. Like you ask 9 out of 10 people that live a relatively functional life, and they'll be like, I have no trauma. Yeah, I've never been through anything traumatic. Yeah, but I would highly, highly argue that. I think that everybody's kind of been through trauma. In fact, everybody has been through trauma. Been through trauma. Yeah. So,
especially the way you defined it, like I think that's a really good example that you should probably reiterate again. Like the fact that we all have like a connection to something. Yes. That's like, for example, like cause I didn't even think about it until you just said it. It's like me being on a skateboard, for example, going down a hill and me slipping off the skateboard and grazing my knee. I've now got trauma from that skateboard. Exactly. It's not like that crazy, like, oh no, I haven't seen someone shot, but it's like, anytime I jump on a skateboard again, I'm like, oh, I have that kind of, I'm cautious.
You're much more cautious. And then that's where if you escalate to a bigger scale, that's why people feel the way that they do in relationships or they do in other situations is because they fell off their emotional skateboard and now they're scared to get back on. Yeah. So just to finish your question, the 3 stages is denying it, which is where we're all at. Second stage is acknowledging it. Third stage is transcending through it, which means being able to understand and accept it as that's something that's happened to me and being able to work through that. And that is the most simplistic way that I can ever put it because it's such a long journey to be able to overcome trauma.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to ask you, like, with mental health and relationships, what do you think are the actual kind of impacts, right? Like if I'm someone that, let's say I'm dealing with a mental illness and let's say you're my partner, and you're trying to support me. Stretch. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think are the kind of impacts,
nigga, right? You know you wish, nigga.
Oh, you're out of your mind, bro. What are you talking about? Look how excited this guy's getting right now, but chill. I know I should have put a different example. But what do you think are the kind of impacts, right? Like if we don't actually address it, if we don't actually address what's going on, because a lot of the times we bring it up in conversation,
Right.
but we don't actually understand the severity of what's actually going on in the relationship. So what do you think are the actual impacts?
I think there's two levels. I think there's two impacts in terms of like poor understanding in relationships of your own mental health. I think that it impacts you and impacts the partner.
Yeah.
I think that on your level, I think it's going to give you exacerbated trauma towards what's going on, in terms of like, you're going to continue to feel victimized. You're going to continue to feel that shit doesn't work out for you because you haven't actually addressed the issue. And then this has become another example as to why shit doesn't work out for you, which becomes a continuation of your own problem. Second, leads to the traumatization of the other person. And you might be thinking, like, why is this guy talking about trauma so much? But in reality, all mental health stems from trauma. Everything stems from trauma. And I think that we don't talk about it enough, and we don't get the opportunity to speak about it enough. But that is what it is. That's why in the New South Wales Health and Australian Health, Department of Health, it's now trauma-informed care. That's what we're leaning towards, because it's so important that you actually understand that everybody goes through trauma. But just to answer your question, the impact of it is usually the re-traumatization. And from a really, really basic, relatable point of view from that, means that person's going to become more anxious. You're going to become more anxious. You're going to be fearful. You're going to have a lot more insecurities when you're in the relationship. There's going to be a lack of trust. There's going to be all of those toxic traits that you're constantly seeing when you look at a relationship. Like, that looks like the shittest relationship ever. Those are the traits that are going to happen if you don't address your bullshit within yourself before coming into a relationship.
That's interesting. So what would you think is what would you define as a healthy relationship?
I think that answer is very, very
it's subjective.
But if we look at it from like a definitive kind of perspective, health is without illness. That's what health is. So without illness or ailment. So by that definition, it means that there's, like, from a functional perspective, that it's functional and it doesn't have any of those toxicities within it. Right. I think that would be a quite general definition of what a healthy relationship would be. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, I think that's a really good point that you brought up, especially with the impacts and the traumatization of the trauma. Because I think a lot of the times, right, it's like it just keeps happening. 100%. We don't end up doing anything with it. 100%. And as a result, I think a lot of the times us as people, or us in the relationship, we tend to kind of ignore it and disregard it and just act like this is what's normal now. Now I don't need to really do anything about it. That's just our relationship.
Yeah, exactly right.
And it doesn't need to be like that. Like, every relationship has an opportunity for you to grow and get big and grow strong. I think it's important that we have that moment to kind of understand what's going on. If there's anything that's kind of bothering you or is playing around in your head, that you kind of address that straight away and then let it freaking amplify in your relationship, because then it just becomes toxic AF.
100%. I think that we both need to... The first things first is you need to resolve your own trauma. You need to resolve your own issues. And let me simplify what I mean by that. Resolve your own shit. Resolve your own problems. Resolve your own issues, the deep lying issues, because that is the only way that you can come into a relationship and avoid it from being avoid it happening over and over.
But what if you're in the relationship part? Because it's like, it's all well and good to be able to like self-resolve your thing, but when it's a relationship, it's two people in it. I see.
That's the thing about it, is that like trauma is personalized. Trauma is individualistic. Everybody's trauma is based on multiple different things. Resilience, and we could go very, very like scientific if we really wanted to. You could have it's resilience, it's environmental, it's your upbringing. All those things are going to affect your kind of response to trauma. Right. There's two different things. There's post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth. Two different things. Both have traumatic experiences. Two different experiences. So what I'm saying to you is that in that relationship, there might be traumatization in it, but me and you might have really different kind of opinions. So us working together isn't going to help the relationship. What needs to happen is that you need to resolve it on you, I resolve it, and then we come together to be able to have a much more flourishing relationship. That's what I believe, because – If we're looking at it as a relationship, that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. Because if we're looking at it as a relationship, that's a different conversation. Because if we're looking at it as a relationship, that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. Because if we're looking at it as a relationship, that's a different conversation. I'm talking about what's your own personal mental health and what's your own issues in the relationship. That's a different story. So for me to ask somebody to come and help me fix my own issues in the relationship is I don't agree with that, no.
But I feel like, even onto that point as well, because we're talking about mental health and relationships, right? And most of the time, as you were saying, it stems from a trauma, right?
Right.
However, once you're in a relationship, I feel like there is an ability to be able to kind of work through that trauma together. For example, if you're someone that's quite insecure, that comes from, and that insecurities come from a previous relationship that you were in where your partner cheated on you, and obviously that insecurity then continues onto your next relationship with the partner, I don't think it would be wise to be able to let that person be on its own, resolve their own shit and come back to me. I don't think it can work that way. I think that both yourself in the relationship need to be able to work through it together, understand that person's probably has some type of trauma related to insecurity, which is why it's affecting their trust, this is why it's showing up here, and just either reassure them or really delve in deep as to what's actually causing it and then be able to work through it. Because maybe sometimes you might be displaying some mannerisms that kind of remind them of that previous relationship, and that's why it comes up again.
Okay.
And if we're not aware of that, then how's that person going to be able to kind of resolve that on their own and then come back to us?
I think we're looking at it from two different perspectives. I think that you're looking at very relationship based. I'm looking at very much from the mental health perspective. And I might be because of a different life perspective. But I'm saying that if we're looking at it from a perspective of, because what I understood your question to be is like your own mental health. How if you're in the relationship right now, how can you fix your trauma when you're in that particular relationship that's causing you trauma?
Yeah.
Right?
I guess
If I'm being traumatized in that relationship, I still have the ability to be able to heal my own trauma. That person may assist me in healing my trauma. Anybody, there's multiple ways of people that can assist you
100%.
in healing your trauma. However, it's not that person's responsibility to be able to do that, and it's not that you're on the same journey. That's what I'm trying to get at. We're on different journeys of our own healing, which I think is very important to understand. Otherwise, we get stuck into oftentimes what in relationship naturally you often worry about the other person more than you worry about yourself. So you can get stuck into having that going down that wormhole of thinking that you're trying to fix your own trauma together, but really you're just not even really worrying about yourself because it's easier to worry about somebody else than worry about your own bullshit.
Absolutely. I think that comes down to, I think that's very interesting because I think that, like you're saying, you need to be able to work on it individually, but I think it's also really important to be able to do it together. And I think it all comes down to the communication, the kind of boundaries that you guys set up with each other, I kind of feel. Because when you do things individually and you go through your kind of healing process, it could be very
lonely.
Yeah, very lonely and difficult for the other person to kind of understand sometimes.
So I guess I need to be a little bit clear about what I mean by going, what I mean by going through it, healing your own. It doesn't mean that when you're healing your own trauma, it does not mean that you're sitting in your room crying to yourself every day. Healing your own trauma means you're taking active steps to prioritize the resolution of your own issues, which may mean that you need to involve your partner. It would most likely mean you involve your partner. 100%. It would mean that you may need to involve a professional, may involve whoever you need to involve. However, what I'm getting at is that person's trauma, that other person's trauma, is not your responsibility, is not your focus, and is not what you're trying to heal or resolve. So whether you're doing it together, it's not about together or apart. That's semantics. What I'm getting at is that person, when you're going through your own individual healing process, it needs to be individualized. And it needs to be you fixing your own shit, that person's fixing their own shit, and you're helping each other. But you're still knowing that when I'm going through this healing process, I'm trying to heal me right now. That person needs to heal him or her because he's going to have different past traumas that's becoming a comorbidity in his now current trauma. So he has a very different experience to me. So we can't do it together. You can help me, I can help you, but we can't do it together.
That's true. Okay. When you explain that way, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Because I was thinking of the approach that it's I'm just doing this purely on my own. And it's you'll come in and play a little bit but this is my own kind of feeling thing. But when you explain it that way, it's it makes perfect sense. It's not that you're completely disregarding the other person. It's just that, that makes perfect sense. And I think that the only way for that to be really resolved, because a lot of the times that was you being if I'm the person in a relationship and let's say my girlfriend's going through some type of mental health trauma, my girlfriend needs to have that kind of awareness to understand that I'm going through these things, because there's only so much you can do as the person to kind of support and try to guide them. But unless they're really active and committed to their healing process, then nothing's really going to happen. Yeah. And that's the issue with it. So it's like, how do you feel that if you're from the opposite end, how do you think that you can raise that to them so that they understand that this is something that they need to work through? Because a lot of times, depending on the language that you use, it can come across quite direct and rude, it can set off some more triggers, and it doesn't allow you to get to where you actually want to go at that point.
I think it's the three steps that are the most important things to be able to get anything out of, to help anybody with anything, especially when it's really sensitive like this, is validate, empathize, ask why. So it's first things first is like, you know what, I can recognize that you're feeling this, right? Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. Like you've been through X, Y, Z. Like that sounds incredibly fucked up. Right. And I can feel that pain that you're going through. Like, what's your thought process on that? But why do you feel that? Those three steps allow you to then open a whole new can of worms that you can continue on forever and ever, and just completely keep replaying that until you get to the root issue, and you will eventually get to the root issue. And then once you've done that and you've been that supportive person, that you didn't force yourself, you didn't make any judgments, you didn't tell them what you thought, you listened to them the whole process, and you just simply asked those questions, you are now able to make suggestions and still make them feel that it's entirely up to you. Yeah,
I really love that. And I think that out of that, like the constant theme from what you were saying was ask questions. Yeah. And I think that that's something as people that we don't do enough. We're straight away very like, oh, let me solve this without even understanding what the hell is actually going on. And from just what you're saying, from asking questions, asking why, and just broadening it much further and allow them to truly, because when you ask someone a question, you put someone in a position to actually think about how they're acting and where it's actually coming from. You force that out of them. Yeah. And you're not being rude or anything about that. You're just really trying to understand it more. And what you're doing by you understanding it more is that you're helping that other person understand it more. So I think something that's really important, especially when dealing with mental health, is knowing the correct questions to ask. Yeah. And I think that's something that we don't do enough. 100%. And once we're able to do that, I think that, like you said, like you're going to be able to really resolve a lot of conflicts that may happen in not even just with your mental health, but just in life in general. Yeah. Life in general.
110%. It's like there's so many, like history is such a great teacher. Like you have a CEO, like I'll give you two examples. You have a CEO of one of the biggest kind of like car dealerships in the world. Yeah. And he had an issue with why they weren't able to get enough production done. And he asked the question, why? He went up to almost every single employee. He had thousands of employees, and he got pretty much interviewed almost every employee from every one of his shops or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know how true this is, or like into the extent.
I thought, is this from the Monk book? No.
I don't know the extent of how many people he actually interviewed. If he has thousands of people, but like he interviewed a shitload of people. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sure, yeah, a shitload of people. Yeah. So when he interviewed those people, he asked them. He got to understanding them as the reason why they weren't reaching their goals. And he said on average, it takes about 5 or 6 different whys to be able to get down to the root cause. So you need to be prepared when you're having a conversation with someone. Don't stop at the first why. You need to understand that people are only showing surface level. People are only showing symptoms, not causes. Because causes means that you need to deal with it and you need to actually address it. And most of the time, that person hasn't even asked themselves why. They don't even know why. Exactly. So then you need to be able to ask that person 5 or 6 different whys before you get down to their root cause. The second thing is what Abraham Lincoln said. It was that if I don't like a man, that means I need to know that man better. Yeah. So it goes to your second point about like, look, bro, we just need to understand someone better. And that's why we have those conflicts in those relationships, is because we haven't asked those questions to actually know our partner. You could be with them for 3, 4, 5 years. Doesn't mean you fully know them.
Exactly. Like, you don't ask enough questions. Yeah. And I love that why, because it's like a lot of times, like sometimes even myself personally, I'm guilty of this, is that I feel like when I ask why, someone gives me an answer and me asking why again, it's showing to me that like maybe I don't understand you, and it makes me feel like I'm dumb for asking why again. But it's trauma. Really just trauma.
That's his trauma, baby.
You can label it that way.
No.
But you know what I mean, right? Yeah, but it's like, but it's just like when you kind of like just flip it and just be like, you know what, like like why, just so you can understand more why and force yourself. Because a lot of times when we have discussions, I can just be saying some bull crap, and you're just like, oh, why do you feel that way? And then I just take a moment to be like, shit, man.
Yeah, what? Yeah, exactly.
Shit. And then I'll give you some superficial answer. And you'll be like, okay, but why? And you're like, oh shit, this is getting deep. And all you're saying is just one word.
Exactly.
It's insane.
That's what it is.
It's insane.
Like, yeah, but why, but?
You know what I mean? Why, but? It's like, oh, I don't know, but.
Exactly.
And then you get caught in, but you box me in, but I'm like, oh shit.
And it forces you to really think and actually deal with it and realize that, holy shit, like I'm feeling X, Y, Z way. That's why I'm doing this. That's why it's really, really, it's so powerful, man. And like, I've been researching or like been really interested in trauma for a very long time.
Right.
I've been like, that I've been working on this, writing on like a little bit of a little book. That's one of my goals. One of my life goals is to actually create this book, and it's about trying to make it as simplistic as possible so people understand emotional trauma, and understanding that it's the reason why we behave the way we behave. And until we actually understand and get down to that reason why, we're not able to actually address our behavior. And that's why we have so many pricks in the world. I swear to God, we have so many pricks in the world because they don't know why that they're behaving that way. And they just think that it's okay to continue behaving that way. And no one's actually asked them the reason why.
They lack that self-awareness to even want to delve deeper into it.
100%.
No, so no, honestly, bro, like I think that was super valuable, man. And like, I think there's a lot of key takeouts
100%.
that people can actually apply into, not even just with their relationships, but just in life. And even with, if they're doing their own kind of self-reflection and trying to understand themselves better, like I think there's a lot of takeaways there that are super powerful.
I think so too. I think that we've gone through a lot, and I think that like, it's the main thing. I'm really, really grateful that we have this opportunity and platform to be able to speak like this, because I don't think that I love getting the guest perspectives because it gives me a different perspective. But I think that it's really important that we get the opportunity to 100% speak our mind. So
I learned something new as well from that. Be the king of asking why.
Trauma, baby.
No, but honestly, I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this week of Uncovered, our first 2 episodes that we launched. So honestly, we're just gonna keep getting better. Right, mate. If you watch the video so you can see Femi do his dumb dance.
Let me do the Nick dance.
You're not doing it right, but your shoulder's too big because Femi jumped on steroids, so that's why I can't do it anymore.
I did not. Only testing, clearly the trend.
But honestly, if you like this, like, please leave a comment, leave a review. I'd love to hear your opinion and your thoughts. And if this actually helped you, and if you actually learned something from this as well, I'd actually love for you to drop down your takeaway, because that's actually going to inspire and motivate us to just keep dropping more and know what you guys like more, and just keep delivering on that, because we really, really would appreciate it.
And if you think I'm wrong and we're the dumbest people ever, we want to hear that too.
No, that's it. Say it.
I haven't slapped someone in a long time. No, but seriously, if you think that we're wrong, like, please let us know, because we're open to learn. Like, this is such a new, like, mental health is ever changing. So we're very much so know that we don't know everything. So jump on and let's have a bit of a discussion.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're over and out. Make
Peace
sure
and love.
This has been the Uncovered podcast with Nick and Femi.
And make sure you subscribe, share, and
follow
whatever
us on
else you do.
Instagram
Follow us
at
on
Nick and Femi.
What else do you do on podcast?
I don't know.
Download.
At Nick and Femi.
No, it's at Nick and Femi, mate. We've changed it. So
Wow.
that was just our sound
That's
engineer.
just our sound guy trying to correct us.
Yeah, like we don't know what's going on. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Waylon.
And also, just a shout out to Divine Critiques for this fabulous coffee.
Honestly, Divine Critiques put us on this, man.
Peace and love.
Peace.